this week, because Monday I started my week. We came back from Chicago on my niece's wedding. Very exciting. She's dear to my heart. And we came back Monday and went to a funeral. But I call it a celebration of life. It was my friend Yasha Dudko, and she's 86 years old, and she was a firecracker. And when I first moved here in 1996, I immediately, like so many of us, we got to find a church. We got to find a church family. And so I found Queen of the Apostles Church. And I landed there and, go to church every Sunday, hi, how are you? But there wasn't really anyone there that really I connected with. And so I think about that was maybe 3 to 4 Sundays. And then one day I was driving by our church during the week, and our priest was there, Father Hutchinson, and he had a little Scotty. And that was his pride and joy. And so I thought, I'm gonna pull in and just say, hey, Father Hutchinson. And he said, how you doing? We're new here, we're glad you're here. And are you meeting some people? Are you starting to feel connected? We're glad you're here. And I said, no. And he very quickly said, well, what are you gonna do about that? Kind of set me back a little bit. And I said, I don't know, Father Hutchinson. And he said, well, you need to get involved. He said, there's lots of things going on at this church, and you can help, because he knew that I was an at-home mom for the first time in my whole life. And I said, okay. And he said, I'll have Yasha call you. And I'm in trouble now. Why did I just keep driving? And I'll be darned if she didn't call me the next day. And so that meeting resulted in obviously meeting Yasha, and I helped her with the food pantry. And we're a small church, so we had a small food pantry. People would come in, and we also helped to pay utility bills, and that was one thing she needed help with, because she just didn't have the manpower, and she wasn't very tech savvy, to take those requests in. And so I worked side by side with Yasha, and just enjoyed the heck out of it. And not knowing how dynamic she was in the community. I mean, she was one of the founding members of Cornerstone Christian Ministries way back when. She was a realtor. So many things I found out about her when I read her obituary, for Pete's sake. The years I spent with her. But yeah, just a really dynamic lady. And so she really led her life to serving other people, and she focused on her community. So she was really my example of serving other people. And she also told me that life's not about me. It's often about other people. Things that happen to me, good and bad. Maybe I'm just a conduit, for that bigger plan that's supposed to happen to Jen, to Andrea, to Megan, to whoever. And that really kind of grounded me a little bit in my journey. So that's kind of what my story is about today, and just kind of share some examples, encourage a little bit. But I'll start about me. Jen shared a little bit about me. I'm from the Midwest. I was born in South Bend, Indiana. One of 3 children. Got married when I was 18 years old, y'all. What was it? Right? And I moved to Florida with my husband, and then we moved back to Indiana, and I started college at Purdue University. While he was getting his master's degree in pharmacology, and he finished that, and we went back to St. Petersburg, and I love it. It's just really nice. Still self-space in my heart. But to no surprise, I was single again when I was 20. I got married very young, and it just wasn't a good day. Nobody's fault. We were just too young. It happened. Yeah. But I was determined to finish college. I knew that was really important to me, and important to my family, my future. And it was hard though. I worked full time and went to college. So 2 years turned into 3.5, almost 4 years to finish college. But I did it. So I'm pretty proud of that. Graduated from University of South Florida, degree in finance. First job out of college was an Allstate neighborhood office agent. I was that little office in the corner. I had one of my customers had a litter of child puppies and said, wouldn't you like to have an office dog? And I said, sure, I'll have an office dog. So I had this little puppy running around in my office. I was like the favorite agent in the office. Come on in. I don't care if you need insurance, but that should be with us. So, it was a really good marketing tool. One of the best dogs I ever had. Name was Mackie. And then in Florida, I met husband number 2, who shall remain nameless. I'm just kidding. That was the man that gave me 2 amazing kids, Spencer and Katie, to which I'll always be grateful. and Katie and Spencer are my heart, my soul, and Lauren, now I have Lauren and Johnny. So gosh, just huge blessings, huge blessings. That was a tough marriage. There was a lot of domestic violence in that marriage. I stayed in that marriage for about 6 years. And for those of you that have friends or have experienced domestic violence, it is challenging. It's very lonely. It's a very fearful place. And it took me about 6 years before I finally found the strength to leave. Katie and I could go. It was a hard 6 years. You know, during the whole time, you're like, why me?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a good person.
Yeah.
It's happening to me.
Yeah.
And then what happens in, I don't want to get emotional here, but what happens so much in domestic violence is that the abusers, it's all about control, and the abusers control you by isolating. And isolated me from my family. So, you know, when you want to pick up the phone and say, Mom, you know, my sister, it was hard. I was able to do that when I was at work. Luckily, I was still able to work. And so that was my outlet, was work, which was really great. I worked as a project manager in South America at Northern Telecom, which is a big telecom. We used to put towers in South America. And I had a great team of people that I worked with. It just couldn't be better. Again, we worked South America. I didn't speak Spanish. Well, they gave me Spanish lessons, which was awesome. And my boss, Oscar Perez, you know, just sat in the same office with him. We were there every day working, shipping cellular towers to Peru. But he noticed that something was wrong. But you hide it all, you know, domestic violence. It's because you don't want anybody to know, because gosh, if people find out, then there could be even more trouble. You're just trying to keep everything under control at that time. So he recognized, and you know, he elevated it just a little bit at work, just so they could help me. Because the West Spring started, you know, and so Oscar and his boss were really, really kind to me and really supported me, you know, keeping me going, because I knew I had to have some financial resources in order to leave if I was ever going to leave. So they were great that way. So, you know, it's, you know, that story I share because in your workplace and if you manage people, just watch for signs of things. If you see like uncharacteristic behaviors in your coworkers or your friends, just stop yourself for a minute, you know, because we're all getting a little involved in our workday, and just ask, well, maybe, you know, and maybe ask some questions, give them a little support. Sometimes it's just a hug because you don't know quite what to say. It means a lot. So we have this history of alcoholism in our family, and substance abuse. So pretty broken through that whole situation. So I found Al-Anon. For those of you that are aware, I'm sure everybody's probably heard of AA. My Al-Anon is a group for families of alcoholics and some people with substance abuse. We need support too. You know, we're again trying to keep everything together, and work and kids, and so that is. If you've never heard of that group, it's an unbelievable group. Just like AA, you know, we all get together in a room and we just about one another's fellowship. And fellowship is so important to all of us. So never discount the importance of, you know, just hanging out with your friends, hanging out with the girls, going to have coffee. It's really, really important. Because you don't have to do it alone. God puts those people in our path. You know, just with us. I think it's really important. So I was finally able to leave after 6 years, and again, hadn't talked to my family very much. Mom would send me $25 just to support me. Now moms do. Break a call during the day. You know, they call me at work, and my boss kept going on, so they let me talk to my family. And so finally the day came when I was ready to go, and I just called my sister, and she said, "We'll be there tomorrow." Got through what we could in the car. Got on the road, went to Houston, Texas. Texas is a wonderful city. I just love Texas. And so I lived with my sister for 8 years until we could get on our feet, so that was really, really great. Finally got divorced in 1994. So I was finally free, but not really, because you know, it was just, lots happened. I was a little bit broken. Just getting through the day, and every day got better, you know, which it will if you ask God to help you. And so later that year, even a year, my mother found my husband, John Church. Yeah.
Because that's what we do.
That's what
It's all about our moms, you know. Moms stop being so nosy, but you know, thanks, Mom. We went to the Epiphany of Our Lord Catholic Church in Katy, Texas, which is west of Houston. And they had a big carnival every year. And they had it in August, y'all. That's the hottest time in Texas. But they always had they had huge tents, you know, so there was plenty of shade. But it was a pretty big carnival that they had every year, because there was 3,000 families in the church. Wow. So it was really a great church. So I'm there with Mom and Katie and Spencer, little, you know, and my sister couldn't come with us. And so I'm there with Mom, and she wanders off. Like, I mean, honestly, we were there 10 minutes, she's gone. I don't know where she's at. She does that a lot. Because she's a talker. And she was that mom that used to talk to people in the grocery store. And as a kid, I was like so embarrassed. You know, I'm just standing here and she's just talking. Mom, you know that? No, but you know, we're all standing here. We've got time so we can chat. You know, so fast forward 50 years. No, I'm that person. Yeah, so I've somehow become a mother. Good or bad, but I've become a mother. So after 2 hours, my mom, 2 hours, y'all. I mean, I was getting ready to leave. It was hot. And after 2 hours, my mom finally shows up. And she's got a man. She says, John, I want you to meet my daughter, Jenny. Family calls me Jenny. My daughter, Jenny. And I was trying to be polite. And so we started to chat a little bit, you know, went to a table, sat down, got out of the sun. And he was cute. And Jim knows him, he's hilarious.
He is hilarious.
He's got a great sense of humor. But I didn't want any part of this. Because you know what? I've done this twice.
Yeah.
And I figured I didn't do it really well. You know, it's starting to heal a little bit. And I'm feeling pretty good about life, you know, and I'm a single mom, but it's good. You know, I can do this. I got family here with me, so it's really good. So we started chatting and find out he's got 2 kids. I got 2 kids. I'm like, oh Lord, this will never work. 2 plus 2 makes 4. Oh my. So I'm sitting there and everybody's chatting. I'm just kind of sitting quiet and smiling, because you got to smile through life. You know, that's what we get to do. To encourage one another and also to keep ourselves encouraged. And just prayed a little bit, and God said, this is going to be okay. That is not the message I want to hear. But I decided to stay quiet, and that's hard for me to do, y'all. I'm a talker. And John says, well, maybe we can have coffee or drink sometime. Well, you know, it's hot. We've been out all day. You know, I don't have a babysitter, and you know, for the kids. But yeah, maybe we can do that. My mom says, I'll watch the kids tonight. And then what do you say? Right? You don't want to be rude. And I said, okay. Okay, I'll see you at 7:30. So I get home, and I'm so sorry. My sister, of course, had not been with us. I walked in the door, slammed the door. She comes up and says, what's wrong with you? You would not believe what Mom just did to me. And I said, help me, Cheryl. I'm going to stay in the back of the house. I'm getting ready. And can you vet him a little bit? See if he's like a nice guy. And if he's not, you know, if something feels uncomfortable or weird, just or just call me and I'll, you know, say something. I'll figure it out. So I hear him come in 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
Oh, wow.
He's in my sister's house. And they're just laughing and carrying on. And so finally I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I need to come out. I made him wait for like 30 minutes. And I walk in there, they barely acknowledge me. Because they're just carrying on and laughing and they're eating chips. I'm like, okay. So yeah, so again, I kind of looked at that, that's maybe a God thing here, that maybe this is a good guy, and maybe I should let down my barriers a little bit. So we went out and had a wonderful time. It was really great. I thought I'm going to get in the car, I'm just going to tell him a whole horrible story about my history of domestic violence, his crazy ex-husband who's still really around, and that'll surely scare him off, right? No, he beat me to the punch. He started by talking about his story, and yeah, with his kids and his horrible divorce, and I'm like, such trouble here. It was funny, we had to be laughing and carrying on. Yeah, so it was funny. So we went out and we started dating, and got the kids together, and let's see, how old were the kids then? I think Johnny was like 11, Lauren was 8, so they were all pretty young. And Spencer was like 5, and Katie was like 2, so they were all pretty little. But they all seemed to get along pretty well. So it was good, so life was good. Got a good job, was really happy. And then in 1996, John was recruited by First Union, so for some of us that are older, remembers First Union and then Wachovia and now Wells, to run their mortgage loan servicing group here in Charlotte. I'd never been to Charlotte, I'd never been to North Carolina my whole life. And so John had a nanny at that point for his kids, because he was a single dad. And Loretta, the nanny, was gonna go with them to North Carolina. And honestly, it was probably 2 weeks before he was scheduled to report to First Union that he proposed to me. Wow. Totally unexpected. Okay, so if you lost count, this is husband number 3. Yeah. But that's kind of a testimony to, never give up on love, y'all. Because I finally got it right. We've been married 28 years. I told you, it's 28 years, so just don't give up. The right person's out there. If like me, if I, when I stop being controlling and start trusting God with some of my decisions, it's kind of, what's the word we use? Surrendering. An A and L, and we use the word surrender. When I finally started doing that, I was able to breathe, and life got easier because I didn't have to control everything. And as women, we do that. As women, we do that. So mamas taught us how to do it, and then we became mamas, and we have to control all that, right? I'm sorry. So of course now, we came here not even married, because everything happened so fast. And so honestly, John was at work for like a week at the bank. He brings home this folder of paperwork, right? And it's all his paperwork for insurance and whatnot that we have to fill out. And I looked at it and I said, John, I can't be on your insurance. We're not married. And he went, oh yeah, we should be. Honestly, that's the way it happened. And
Sounds just like that.
my mom was gonna come in a week, just to come visit. And John said, well, your mom's coming in a week, let's just go get married in a week. We'll have a big party later, you know how we love to have parties. I said, okay. So mom came and got everybody dressed up. Went to the old Gaston County Courthouse. Who remembers that place? The building's still there, but yeah, it was quite the place. And when you get married at the courthouse, once you get your marriage license, you get in line with the magistrate. Behind everybody else who's maybe got a speeding ticket. DUI, fussing with their neighbor, and they put a restraining order on them. So there we are in line at the magistrate's office. And the kids are all dressed up. The girls had little poofy dresses on, the boys were dressed up. My son Johnny, who's like 11, he's got like the old video camera, everything, and on those walls, there's like, it was quite the event, yeah. So we finally get up to the front, and I said, we want to get married. And they said, who are your 2 witnesses? And I said, well, here's mom, and here's Johnny. Johnny's 11. I told John, I said, you gotta be at least 18. Be a witness, and he said, no, I called the courthouse and they told me. And I said, you did not call the courthouse.
Yeah.
I said, no, but I had to let it go. And so the magistrate told us that very thing. He's 11 years old, he can't be your witness. And so everybody had been saying in line a long time. The guy behind us said, if you don't mind, I'll be your witness. Basically saying, can we speed this thing along? I know, this is too crazy not to be true, y'all. And the whole time, there's Katie. Katie's like 3, and she's got this pretty dress, and she's standing over the air vent. It's the cutest thing Johnny's got. Yeah. And so, so I don't even know the guy's name. I guess I'll look at my marriage license and then now that we're talking about it. But so we went to the other room, we got married, and Coming back to the house, we stopped at Dairy Queen. This Dairy Queen right over here. Why? Because it's on Church Street.
That's
And that was my new name, Jennifer Church, so we had to stop and get Dairy Queen. Yeah, so, yeah, it was an interesting start, but, you know, we blessed along the way, so it was really fun. So now, you know, I'm very blessed because I was able to stay home with the kids. I've never done that my whole life. So I'm the at-home mom now, which is great. And so we live in Cramerton, so the kids went to New Hope Elementary. Lauren had a lot of anxiety. She always had as a kid, and sometimes very debilitating anxiety. So she's and so going to a new school was really, really hard for her. And so take her every morning and just desperately crying, and it was really hard. So there was a guidance counselor there named Libby Seislon. She was so kind, she just, so sweet, just very calming, and said, Lauren can stay in my office for the day. And so, and she would eventually, you know, she'd integrate her into the class, you know, like right before lunch, or so she did that for like 3 weeks. Wow. Yeah, so kind of her to do that. And so finally Lauren got comfortable, and we could drop her off, and she, you know, she made friends, and so she could get in school, which was really nice. And so, I'm spending time in that school because I'm trying to get Lauren in there and making sure she's comfortable and whatnot. So I got to meet some of the staff, and I got to meet some of the parents as they're coming in, and so the parents of Lauren's class, and just wondered, how can I give back? I mean, this was so kind, these people to do this. And so somebody on the staff said, you know, we got a couple of parents that tutor, and we'd love to have more. Would you like to do that? I'm like, sure. What does that mean? And she said, oh, you know, they just drop off their kids in the morning, and then you go to the cafeteria, and there's going to be some other kids that we'll send to you that are struggling with math, and they're struggling with reading, and if you can spend like an hour with them. And now I think they have professionals, you know, in the school system that, you know, they can go and assist them with things like that. But then they didn't, and so I said, sure, I can do that. So, what a blessing that was to see these little kids, and they was, you know, I was ready for that kind of stuff. But, you know, just to spend some time with them. And then I had so much fun doing it. I said, you know, some of these moms and the moms in the neighborhood, you know, I said, you guys come help, this is really fun. So we got like 15 people to add to that tutoring program, and it was super fun. And then we got people who didn't want to tutor, just wanted to mentor. And so they would come and have lunch, right? Which they do. So that was really fun. So, you know, I think about, you know, maybe that whole thing wasn't about me. It was about those kids. You know, so to make a difference in those kids' lives. So, you know, just another those examples that, you know, maybe it's not about me. At that same time, again, I had a little bit of time on my hands. You know, when we work and we have kids and all, we're used to multitasking a lot. You know, that's just, we run in that high level, right? And so all of a sudden I had like a little bit of time on my hands. And so I'm like, this is nice, and I've got things to do and people to meet and places to go. And then I opened up the Gaston Gazette, where people like to read a physical newspaper in our house. And there was an article about the shelter of Gaston County, which is for women that suffer from domestic violence. And at that time, so this is 1996, they were looking for people to be court advocates. What is a court advocate? At that time, well, the same thing as it is now. Somebody that will sit with, you know, the ladies when they need to find safety. They will file a temporary restraining order. And then they're expected in about 30 days to go into court and get a permanent restraining order for a year. That's typically the way it works. And that's a scary process. And so they were looking for people that could sit with the victims and chat with them a little bit about what was a temporary order, you know, what's a permanent order, what's going to happen in court when you go, how to behave in court. And so I had no training in that, no social work training, nothing. But I've been where they've been. So I said, you know, yes, God, I guess I'll do this. Yeah, I just felt like I was really being called to do it. And so they gave us wonderful training. So that was Legal Services of Gaston County back then. I don't even know if they're in existence anymore, but yeah. And so they just called me when there was a need, and I came in, I just sat and I chatted with the ladies, cried with them a little bit, you know, just said, don't you gum, don't crack your gum in court, you know, we're gonna send them back. You know, don't look at them, you know, just some little things. But just told them everything that I knew. And sometimes Katie went with me. Katie was like work, she wasn't in school yet, so sometimes she went with me. Probably wasn't smart. And then I went to court with them, so I would just sit next to them in court, kind of hold their hand, and just, calm them a little bit. Sometimes they want to run out of the room, you can't do that, so just kind of hang on to their hands. And there were times when I didn't have anybody watch Katie, sometimes Katie went to court. So life didn't always fall into place the way it should have, but maybe it did. And so I just remembered it was just a scary time for these ladies. It was scary for me, it was scary for them. So I feel like if I could do one little thing, and it wasn't like a daily thing that I did, they just called me when they needed me. And there were couple other people that did that, but it was very fulfilling. Because I did that, I was often at the shelter talking to the director, who was then Kathy Cloninger, who's now one of our county commissioners, who's a fabulous person and a really good friend. And so when I was there, I noticed there were sometimes like 25 women and children in the shelter. There can sometimes be a lot of people. Like I think this week there is 28. There's a lot of people there. And so you've got the director, and you've got a few volunteers, but not nearly enough. And they're having to cook meals because anyway, I thought, gosh, can we not get meals provided for these people? So the wheels start turning a little bit. Yeah, and I'm not minding my business like I'm supposed to. I know. But we ended up, with me and a couple of my friends, we ended up starting a meal program over there. And it was like super easy. Sometimes these things, they look big, but they're not as big as if you break them into some small parts, and you ask for help. It's no part of this whole discussion, don't be afraid to ask for help. So we ended up setting up like meals for 30 days. And so you would come, you would just do one for me, and so you're gonna do the third Thursday of the month. And we don't care what it is. You can send pizzas from Hungry Howie's. We don't care. It's whatever you want to bring because they're happy for the help, right? And so we set up the meal program, and it was, it started out with me and my friends. Our church cooked. A lot of other churches in the county cooked, and restaurants like Jackson's Cafeteria was like the very first restaurant that came on Sunday, which was awesome. And it was just a lot easier, than we thought. It was like 20 years ago. It's still going on. All I do now is cook my meal on the third Thursday of the month. So just sometimes those little things, if you get an idea, just share it with somebody, and maybe things can happen. Sometimes they don't happen, but maybe things can happen, because sometimes it's not the right time. We always have to trust that to God, but sometimes it's just not the right time. But so just start small with things. There's one of my favorite quotes. It's like, let me see, what's it? It's do what you can with what you have, where you are. I think Roosevelt, I don't know, he probably stole them from somebody else too. But, it's just a really good example though that little things can make a difference. And you don't have to have extra time on your hands, just wherever you're at, where you're going, just do it right there. With your friends, at church, whatever you're doing. So now I'm supposed to be talking about business and leadership and not about me. So I'll talk about that a little bit. And a lot of us in this room are entrepreneurs. Would I call myself an entrepreneur? No. Would I call my husband an entrepreneur? Oh yeah. And he's always thinking, always dreaming, always scheming, and that's a good thing. But when you do too many dreams and schemes at the same time, it gets to be a little overwhelming. But every one of these dreams and schemes that he came up with, somehow I ended up part of them. Because as I said earlier, I'm pretty nosy. It's hard for me to mind my own business, and of course I've got to know what he's doing all the time, so I always got to stick my nose in it. So here I am in all these little business events that he has. And he's always been in, we've had several commercial properties around the county, and our first one, and the one that's most dear to me, we call it the Cow. It's in Cramerton, so we call it Cramerton Office Warehouse Cow. So if you ever see my driver's license, my plate on my car, it says Cow. No, we're not farmers. It's Cramerton Office Warehouse. And so that was our first property, and so we just found some land like 5 minutes from our house and built like an office warehouse. What does that mean? It's a strip center, right? It's got, a storefront in the back, in front, roll-up door in the back, you see those all over the county. We built one of those. And it was good, and it's been really nice. John's very entrepreneurial, especially with regard to real estate. He and his family were those Century 21 Yellow Jacket people that are old enough to remember Century 21, right? They always had the Yellow Jacket. And so they, yeah, very, very focused on real estate all the time. His mom was a realtor, he was a realtor, everybody was realtors in the family. But what I'm sure about the cow is really the community that it created, which is really important to us. So, you know, we've got 20 units, so we've got 20 little individual small businesses, and everybody's got a story, you know, it's like their little dream, you know, if they wanna sell fire extinguishers, you know, we've got, let's see, who do we have there? We've got budget blinds, we've got Sugarlicious, which, you know, Sugarlicious, and they moved into our center. We've got the Girl Scouts there. We've got Tasty, which is, if anybody that knows agave, Jen's been to Tasty with me, and agave, if anybody's been to agave, that's the guy, Amby owns agave, runs agave, fabulous food there. And he came to us, and so he opened a second location, which is called Tasty in our shopping center. It's like, oh my God, this is so great. He's the best tenant. You know, Gator Metal Roofing, just, you know, it's just a slew of people that are over there, printing company. And it's really cool because we make a little bit of money on that real estate. The best thing is that we created like this little community of people, which is really fun. And they all become our friends, you know, and they become friends with me because they say the air conditioning's not working. It's like, "Okay, 5 minutes." So I'm the property manager too. So that's fun, but you know, so I kind of look at that too, as that's not about me, that was about creating this community with these people and helping them realize their dreams, which is really near and dear to my heart. But then, you know, my husband wasn't satisfied with that. He had to do something else. So we were on vacation in Florida, and he's out driving around. I should never let him do that by himself, but he did, because I wanted to go to the pool. And he came home and he said, "No, you look bored. Maybe it's time you went back to work." I know. I had nothing to say. I just went. I'm sitting there like taking it. That's awesome. He said, "I have an idea." That's when you know you're in trouble. When my husband said, "You got an idea?" So, took a breath, leaned back, and he said, "I met this guy who has, he sells teak furniture. And he buys it by the container. And you know what a container is, like, it comes out the ship, right? It feels like the back of a semi, right? And ship it in." He said, "We can buy a container of teak furniture from Indonesia, from this guy, and we can furnish our house with it, and then we can just sell the rest out of the cow." This is our shopping center. Because we had a couple vacant spaces. He said, "We'll just throw up that, we'll just put it in there, we'll throw up that garage door, and people will just come." I'd never been in the furniture business. I'd never done marketing, not really. Yeah. He said, "Won't that be fun?" Yeah, well, that's John. And so, yes, we did it. And again, I look at that as, again, one of those God things. That was not about me. Why is that? Because I am now working at another business that we have and managing the shopping center, and I need a store manager. I don't know what I'm doing and don't have anybody in mind, don't know how to reach out to anybody, and so I started to ask for help. My friend Allison Minnick was one of the first people I met at church. Her husband had just been laid off from Freightliner. He's an engineer, a motor engineer. He'd just been laid off. She said, "You know, Mike just got laid off. Do you want him to manage the store for you?" I'm like, "Yes." Is he qualified? No. Yes. Yes. And I knew him. I knew he was trustworthy. I knew he was a hard worker. So I said yes. So he works my store manager. Just did an awesome job. Really calm. You know, I'm just fretting about everything because I don't know what I'm doing. He's just like, "Jen, it's okay. I got this. I'll figure this out." Because he was a real problem solver. And so fast forward, you know, we had fun with the business. Did we make money? Oh, hell no, we made no money. Just kept writing checks. But during the course of that, Lauren was our second child who has all the anxiety. She's always been a straight A student, really an achiever. She was failing math, which was so uncharacteristic for Lauren. She was really struggling with it. And the teachers at school were trying to help her because her anxiety was so high. You know, she just got to get this block into the high anxiety. And so I'm at work, I'm sharing this with Mike, and he's got such a calm demeanor. And he says, "Jen, just bring her in. I'll teach her." He said, "You don't have an engineer." I said, "Oh, yeah." And I said, "Okay." I said, "But you know, Lauren, you know my whole family, you know how it is, Mike." He said, "Just bring her in." So I did. And he connected with that child in a way nobody else could. And her grades went from D's to A's. Because he sat with her every day, because he gave her that comfort that she needed, and that confidence that she needed to succeed, and she did, and it was really awesome. And so I kind of look at that, as another one of those not about me things, because we still closed the store, because we weren't making any money. But, and then Mike had to find a job, and we said, Mike, why don't you become a teacher? You're so good at this. You're so good. If you can teach Lauren, you can teach anybody. And so he did. So, he put his name in the hat, and he became a math teacher at Bessemer City High School. And so that was his second career, and he retired as the head of the math department at Bessemer City High School.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah, and so my friend Allison called me this morning just because we're gonna go to lunch at Groovy Beast today. And I said,
Great, by the way.
she said, good luck on your talk, and I said, you know, y'all are in my talk. It's one of my things. Yeah, so again, so I think maybe that whole thing happened because of Mike, because he was supposed to be a teacher. He was really great. At the same time, we're doing that. Still had the furniture store, we had a business, we had a commercial servicing business, Washington Asset Management, because John had retired from the bank. And went into partnership, you know, kind of creating this small business, that serviced Wall Street, with commercial loans. And, so at the same time we're doing that, you know, we're ramping up this other business, and, we had sometimes 60 employees, and a lot of contractors, we had 60 employees, because what our employees did, in addition to data management, is they went out and inspected commercial properties. For example, this property, they could be inspecting this property, you know, it's got a loan on it, this building's got a loan on it, and it periodically has to be inspected to make sure they're keeping up with it, you know, as part of their loan, their management package with their loan. Jen can speak to this better than I can, but yeah, so, most of my contractors were those people, and a lot of them were all around the country, but oftentimes we had, you know, at least 30, 40 people in the office. So, as I thought about that part of my life, it just reminded me about relationships, and how important relationships are for all of us, and also kind of knowing your people that you work with, whether they're just a coworker or they're your employee, and just to kind of stay connected to them. John's a great mentor of people. He's really, really good. He's that guy that, you know, you can walk in his office and you know you're gonna get fired because they're downsizing and all that, you know? You walk in, you know, that long walk of dread, right? Honestly, they walk out of there laughing and carrying on, you know? So, because he mentored people all along the way, so they knew his heart was in the right place, just sometimes life happens. But yeah, just from Waterstone reminded me, because we counsel so many people along the way, because things are happening at home that I don't want to tell you, but they're affecting my work, you know, because I'm away from my desk, I'm talking on the phone. So just kind of be aware of those things, and just let your employees and your coworkers know that you're there for them. You know, even just a hug or say, I gotcha, you know, if you want to talk, I'm happy. You know, and we did a lot of that at Waterstone. Should have a better takeaway from all those years of working there, but that was really my takeaway, is that we met a lot of fabulous people, and they, you know, they encouraged us and we encouraged them along the way, so I think that was really important. So anyway, you know about my husband's love for real estate, so here he goes to Chronicle Mill, as Jen mentioned. So in 2011, and again, our sweet spot is these little strip centers, right? Storefront, roll up, and back. That's what we do well. We had a few commercial properties peppered around the county, but that's what we really like to do. In 2011, you know, he connected with Bob Clay, he's, you know, a commercial realtor in town, and Bob showed him this old textile mill in Belmont, and said, John, you should buy this. This would be a fun project. Yeah, and John said, sure, and he made an offer on this old textile mill. You know, it's 100,000 square feet, you know, right in the middle of downtown Belmont, acres of, and so I said, we don't know anything about this. You did what? What'd you do? I am not gonna develop a mill. We're not gonna do that. So we've got a real estate attorney that works with us, Eileen, and she's like, you know, he does this all the time. He's always making offers on properties, and then he doesn't get them. It's kind of like a little game for him. He enjoys it, you know. And she said, just calm down. It's gonna be fun. Nothing will ever happen to this. They're so far apart on price. Nothing will ever happen. Yeah. And so at Waterstone, you know, John's office was just outside the door. I'm sitting right over here, so I can kind of hear everything that goes on in the office. Yeah. And I said, did I hear? There was like 15 counteroffers. If you looked at the offer to purchase letter, there was like initials everywhere, all over the page. Because back and forth, they went back and forth with offers because they were so far apart on price. And that day, no, I did not hear that. And Eileen walked out of the office and she said, guess what just happened? You just bought a text from her. So, I said, Eileen, will you please leave John's office? Yeah. Did what? What did you do? So after a couple of days, when I finally started talking to him again, what did you do? Okay, where are we at now? Where do we start? I mean, this is, I don't know anything about this. You know, we're real estate developers, but on that smaller scale, on the place that we're comfortable. So yeah, so now this is like 2013, when we finally signed that and got the property. And, it took us 10 years. It took us 10 years to develop that property. Which was a long time, even in commercial real estate, it's a long time. Where do you start with something that big? And how do you do it? How do you start? Where do you start? Who do you go to? So again, ask for help. So we went back to Bob Clay and said, you're the one that sold us this property, Bob Clay. You need to send us some people. And he did. He was awesome. And so we just started connecting with people. So, you know, I'm a big believer in just be an open book. No, I don't know. I don't know what I don't know. And I need you to tell me, because I know that you know a little bit about real estate, you know a little bit about civil engineering, you know a little bit about all those things, you know, asbestos, contaminated materials. I mean, this is all the stuff we're dealing with an old mill, right? So I need you. So we just started creating that team of people around us that could help us. And it was hard, you know. They say joy's in the journey. It was a long journey, y'all. And but the joy was all these people that we met that were there to help us, and it was great people. You know, I got to say, you know, because failure's not an option at that point. We're in it, and I knew John was. He was kind of excited about it. Like, I am scared to death. What is wrong with you? But anyway, so we just started surrounding ourselves with people, and it was great. And one of the people that I'll always be grateful to is Adrian Miller. Adrian was our city manager back then in Belmont. He is now the assistant city manager here in Gastonia, and y'all are so lucky to have him and Shelley DeHart was the head of planning and zoning there. You know, so we need all that help, because you got to get your approvals first in your city. And they helped us to understand how we're going to build it, what the zoning codes were, what we needed to do, what we needed to check. They led us to people in the county, led us to people in the state that we needed to talk to. And when things got rough, Adrian would say, "We got this. We're going to help you with this. We will not fail." That was huge for me. So I'll always be grateful to Adrian for that. But then, Mayor Martin, Shirley Martin, would be, Charlie, he's fabulous. Charlie was there. Our city council was super supportive. They thought we were crazy too, but they're like, sure, if you need this, we'll help you with it. And EDC, Donnie Hicks, oh my gosh, he was fabulous. I remember we had to go in front of the county, because we had to get some taxes. There's so much involved here. I learned so much. It was really great. And we had to go to the county for some tax incentives. This was a big project, and the way the numbers would work. Oh, my light? Okay. Okay. And so we had to go in front of the county commissioners. I didn't know any of those people, except Ronnie Worley, who was commissioner back then. He was really helpful, and just a little nervous. And John was pacing, and Donnie, who we've been talking to, just came up to John and grabbed him on the shoulder and said, "Buddy, I got this." And he went up there, and John thought he had this whole speech plan, and he thought he was going to talk for 30 minutes. And Donnie went up and spoke, because of course he had talked to everybody ahead of time, because that's what Donnie does. It's awesome. And he was up there for 5 minutes, and I said, "Sure, yeah, done." He'd already laid the path. So finding those people is so important, because sometimes they can make those crooked places straight. It was really, really good. So just all those people were so important. The neighbors, the friends, friend of a friend that connected me with you, or you with you. People that could connect us. Just God puts all these people in our path to help us. We got involved in the Main Street program then, because I'm like, I found this big piece of land in Belmont. I got to know what's going on in this city. I got to figure out who's who the players are. And so I got involved in the Belmont Main Street program. And what that is a state program. It's actually a national program. That flows down to the states and then to the cities, and it's really meant for small cities. And it is a way for you to program your downtown. Because so many of the small downtowns fall into disrepair so often, and how do we prevent that from happening? So that's what the Main Street program is. It's got 4 legs. It's got promotion, it's got design, it's got organization, it's got economic vitality. Economic vitality is kind of keeping your fingers on the pulse of your little downtown. Is there a vacancy? How can we help you, Mr. Business Owner? Do you want to come in and start your business? We can maybe help you with that. Organization is kind of gathering together volunteers, people in the community that can help you. Promotion is throwing parties, having concerts, doing all that fun stuff. And I'm the chair of the promotion committee, so I throw parties and do fun stuff. And then design, how do you keep your city alive and vibrant through the arts and culture? And so that's what the Main Street program is. So John and I became part of that program. I learned a lot about the city and met a lot of people along the way, and felt like we made a contribution, even though the mill wasn't making a contribution because it still looked horrible. Every time I drove by, I'm like, oh, something like that. It just looked horrible. Graffitied, oh goodness. So, I'm still part of that Main Street program, which is really great. We became part of the Mount Cross Chamber. I'm still part of that, got involved in GBA. And this is a great organization, I'm so happy that I was introduced to GBA. And Rotary. Jen, I wasn't in Jen's Rotary with John, but I met Jen through that program, and she helped us with the Main Street program, some things we're doing in Belmont, which is wonderful. So I'm really grateful for all those people. God puts all those people in your path. You just have to be open to it. So that's my biggest message. So now I step back. We're still doing real estate with Centra. We're kind of semi-retired every time we think we're going to do that. But it's all fun. It's all good stuff. We just try to be open. Say no when we need to. Say no, learn how to say no is important. And I do that not as often as I should. But I just feel like there's a lot of need, and when people need me, if I'm available, I try to help. So what are my lessons learned? Like, what can I share with y'all? Talk about building that team, and that's what we had to do with the Chronicle. We built that team of people. And those people that had the skill sets and had the knowledge that I did not have. And so just in talking to other people, I found all those people that could help us with that. We found architects and civil engineers, and just relationships that we still have, which is really great. And encourage other people to share their ideas, and that is such a fun thing for me. I do that a lot in Main Street program, and some of the cool things that have happened in Belmont are just that. We sit around a table and somebody says, oh, I saw something in Greenville that I thought would be really fun. We were in a design committee meeting once, and this was a lady who had just moved to the Chronicle Mill. She was a single young lady. And she said, I just came from New York. And we used to have poetry crawls and poetry slams in New York. And they were so fun. All the light, I could just see everybody's eyes in the room going, we should do that. And we did. And so it took about 3 months to do that. That was not enough time to do it, y'all. But it all came together. And so we did, for the first time, we did what we call Sit and Speak. And so we opened up 4 businesses in downtown Belmont. And we just had people, and they crawled down the street. They started with this poet, and we called people in Charlotte, because there's a lot of poets. There's poets everywhere. There's so much arts and culture around here. It's just amazing to me. And then we reached out to Belmont Abbey for a couple of students, and there was a couple of poets over there. And so we pulled all of them in. And so you just walk down the street, and you spend 15 minutes here, and then you walk down to the yoga studio, and you spend 15 minutes there. And she had pillows set up on the floor, and she had the lights down and everything. Oh yeah, she had the best venue. And Nellie's and the new bookstore. We have a new bookshop in Belmont. Yeah, and so everybody just kind of went from poet to poet to listen to poets and time. So those are the kind of creative things that happen when you encourage people to share ideas. So I just, most of the time in those meetings, just sit back and go, wow, you guys are so smart. Because me, I'm the girl that, I tell my kids, Mom, can you help me with homework? No, Google it. Should we do this? Let's Google it first, which is still a good resource for me. But yeah, so just encourage people. People have such great ideas, because I'm not everywhere at every place at every time, and you've met us and you've traveled to a place that I've been and you've seen something that you're like, that's what happened with Moonlight on Main in 2021 in Belmont. If you saw the big moon that we hung in Stowe Park, and we had like 3 weekends of programming, that's how that idea was birthed, is that somebody had been to Florence and seen that moon hanging in Florence, and went, oh, Florence, isn't that nice? No, it was Florence, I feel like. Yeah, Patty Sibbett had been there, and she saw that, and like 3 years later, during COVID, we kind of dreamed and schemed all that up, because we all had downtime, right? Everybody's like at work, not at work, can't meet. Yeah, and that's how that whole idea was birthed, by something somebody saw. And we just said, maybe this is the time. Back then it wasn't the time, but COVID was the time, because everybody canceled their plans for that moon. Because that thing books out like 2 years in advance. And Phil Bogan, who's our downtown director, said, let me just make a phone call. And I'll be darned if they didn't have it. It was Halloween, y'all.
Oh, wow.
It was that time, so what a cool time to have it. Anyway, it was a really fun event. It was a ton of work. We programmed all around it. We had Caleb Davis, who some of you know. He's a great musician in this town, and he performed a show he called Dark Side of the Moon, which was Pink Floyd, which we did that in the park, which was super fun. We had a drum experience where people would bring their drums and just play together, which was hugely successful. We had an outdoor art installation right along the tracks, right? Down in Stowe Park's right along the railroad tracks. We had an outdoor art installation called the Underground Railroad, because little did I know that when people traveled by the Underground Railroad, they did it by moonlight, so they could be safe. And then they jumped on the trains. Yeah, so just some interesting connections that were all a result of that one little idea. So encourage the people in your world to share with you in your meetings and in your workspaces, because that's really where all the excitement really happens. Get involved. Here we are. You wouldn't know because I talk so much, but I am more comfortable in the second row. I'm more comfortable where y'all are sitting right there, because that's always been my space behind John. And, but there's times when we got to sit in front. I'm sitting here today, uncomfortable place. There's times when we sit in the front and lead, but it's usually easier than we think, because we call those people in who can help us and meet new people. And if I not met Jen Thomas, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be in Rotary, which I love Rotary. It's really been fun for me. So, just go out and meet new people. I know my story. I'm tired of hearing my story. I want to hear your story. I want to hear your story. Because your story usually can enrich me as well, which is really great. Be an open book. You can tell I'm an open book. And as I was asked to do this talk with you, luckily you all sent me some videos, people that had done it before. And Brandy Meeks was hysterical. And she said, nobody can gossip about me because I tell everybody everything. I laughed, but it's true about me too. I talk too much, probably overshare. But sometimes I overshare those failures, which I've done today with all of you. And I think it helps people. Because sometimes we get in spaces and we're so alone. I just think sometimes it's helpful, because those failures are just opportunities to just do things a little bit differently, because I get ahead of myself and I'm not in God's direction sometimes. So he needs to pull me back a little bit and get me on a different path. And the good thing is that he always gives me another chance, darn it. If I mess up, he always turns me around, stops me before I hurt myself or somebody else too much. We're going in a really bad direction, and he turns me around and gives me another chance to do it. And so when I mess up, and I want to kick myself, beat myself up a little bit, I remember that. It's just part of the journey. It's a learning experience, and just keep going. Just create that vision for yourself, what you want to do, and just keep going. And service, I think I said, it's big and small. It's whatever you do, wherever you're at that day, just serve there. And it's, when I was an at-home mom, it was doing laundry, it was, it was doing the dishes, it was getting the kids to carpool, it was getting them to soccer, talking about soccer, is there that kid on the soccer team whose parents have to work so they can never come watch the game? Okay, well, he's always kind of hanging back when everybody's getting in the car. Well, maybe hang with him a little while, give him a snack, and hang with him until his mom and dad get there. It's a little thing, and something you're probably already doing, but it's still service. And it's really helpful, so don't underestimate those little things that you already do, which are good, which are really good. And again, you're already here, you're already at the soccer game, with your own kids, so just help any way that you can. Again, talking about God's timing, I'm not a fan most of the time, but I have to remember that He is getting everybody ready, everything ready. Sometimes other people aren't ready for what I want to be doing, what I want to be. So He's getting everything ready. It's His timing. Again, that's not about me. It's really about Him. And I'm just here to help Him execute. What do we say? Hands and feet of Christ here on earth, right? And yeah, that's what we all are. We're just here to do the work. sometimes we don't do it as well as we should, but we're still doing it, and that's the good thing, and that's all we care about, is that we're still doing it. There's always that bigger plan, you know, that I can't see. I think I've shared that with you today as well. And sometimes we don't get answers for some of the things that happen. Let me get emotional here. 2013 was a challenging year, not just because we bought the Chronicle, because that was a thing, but I lost 3 family members that year, y'all. My mom, my brother, and my sister. All of them in 1 year. That is not fair. You know, life just sometimes isn't fair. How do I understand that? I can't. You know, it's just hard. I could understand mom because mom was older, right? You know, God gives us so many years in our time. But to lose my brother and my sister who have young family, they're younger than me, you know, I had young families, it's just like, sometimes there's just some things that happen in life that we just can't explain, and we just have to have faith and trust. My brother was married. They were all married. My brother had 2 fairly young children, you know, in grade school, and my sister was divorced. So she was a single mom, and she had 3 teenage girls, and they lived with her, and they were somewhat estranged from their dad. How do you explain that? 3 teenage girls. Some way they're effectively orphans because the dad was just not in the picture. So how do you explain that? There's just some things that we just can't explain. And one of my favorite scriptures is Psalm 139, and I'll just paraphrase it to say that God's got our name written in the palm of his hand. But our days are numbered, you know. And when I'm in the womb, you know, he knows what day I'm gonna come into this world and try to make a difference, and the day I'm gonna leave and transition, go to him. So that's the only way I could explain to those girls. And it wasn't adequate. But we just kept showing up and helping them. A couple of them came to live with us for a while. Yeah, they came from Phoenix, so they lived in Phoenix, and they came to live with us for a while. And it was such a blessing. It was so great to have them with us. And fast forward, this past Saturday, I was in Chicago, and one of those girls got married in Chicago. And just, what a blessing. And so sometimes out of those things that just aren't fair, we just, you know, we take our bumps and bruises, you know, we put our head down and say, okay, let's go. We take our bumps and bruises, and we keep walking forward. And God has to do the rest. And he does, and he did, which is really nice. Yeah, her older sister got married last year, and yeah, so it's really good. It's great. And probably my biggest secret weapon is I journal. And I didn't know what journaling was. I knew what journaling was, but like, how do you do it? I don't want to do it, you know, and I don't have anything important in my life to even write in a book, you know, because you think you've got to share it with all these people, and you're gonna pass it on to your kids. Heck no, I throw mine away. You know, I don't want, because there's some dark stuff in there. Yeah. But that's what my journal is. So I start on my journaling. It's been a huge blessing. So I had to, because I do it every day, and so it's a big part of my journey. Is that I start with gratitude, and I write 1 through 10 on a piece of paper in my journal, and I fill every one of them, and I make myself do it. But it really adjusts my head in the morning, because I wake up worrying. I wake up with all the things I didn't do, you know, and I hope nobody finds out that I didn't do it. Oh my God, I'm gonna tell you, okay, get all that out of your head. Just do the gratitude, and sometimes the gratitude is, because I start with the coffee, nothing happens until coffee happens. No, so sometimes it's the cup of coffee, and it's sitting there quiet, because nobody's up yet. I'm sitting in a warm house. So you think about it that way, there's a ton of stuff to be grateful for. And it really does adjust my head in the morning. Yeah, so you know, I just say, this is what's on my mind, this is heavy on my heart, give it to God. What do you want it to be? Big and small, the little things. Too much to do today, well, I give that to him too, and then I start complaining. That's why I can't keep my journals and share them with everybody, because there's a lot of complaining about those journals. But that's my venting. Because there's times when I want to vent, I don't know what's happening, and I'm really mad. And it's probably not a good idea for me to share that with anybody right now. It's just not a good idea. And so I write it, and I look at it the next day. And sometimes it doesn't seem so big. Sometimes sometimes I'll let it go for a week. I'll let it simmer in the pot for a little while. And when I do, it's resolved itself. Or somebody's fighting. You know, I always want to get in the middle of my kids fighting and everything. And it's resolved itself. You know, I didn't have to do a thing because God did the work. So that's been a powerful thing for me, is just to write all the complaining and all the problems down and to let it go. And that's really been good. And then the last thing I do is I say, where do you want me today, God? And sometimes that's more about me, because what that allows me to do is, days are full of interruptions. Everybody's day is full of interruptions. And so when I get that interruption, I look at it differently now. I look at it like, okay, well, God really wanted me here today, or He wanted me in front of you today. And so that's where I'm supposed to be. So that interruption, maybe it's a divine interruption. You know, I may not even know that, but I'm going to trust that's what it was. And trust that You'll help me get that thing done later. And He always does. So, gosh, I've talked a little. I thought this was going to be 30 minutes, y'all. So I'm going to kind of close now, but I'll go back to my friend Yasha, who again, we celebrated her life on Monday. And this is another one of my favorite prayers, and they sang it at her funeral on Monday. And it is the prayer of St. Francis, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. And it says, Lord, make me an instrument of Thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console. To be understood is to understand. To be loved is to love. For it is in giving that we receive. For it is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And it is in dying that we are born to eternal life.
So from the woman who had nothing to share,
Goodness.
I thank you for being vulnerable, because you know those are dark moments in your life, and you shared that with us. And now I saw a couple kind of in the eyes, and
Thank you for crying with me.
yeah. But again, I think that it just goes to show that you don't know what people are going through. You don't know what's happening behind the doors. And so your comments about just putting your arm around somebody and saying, I'm here for you, goes a long way. So I hope all of you maybe took a nugget or two away from Jen's talk today. And, you know, for me, things I heard are, you know, be gracious with yourself and others. Listen, even when you don't know that you should be listening. And then just serve where you're planted. And so I appreciate your comments today. But if you would, I think Megan wants us all to convene in the front. She wants to take a picture.
We can also do it in here.
Or you can
It's
do it
probably
both.
more
Okay,
space.
whatever. So we'll do that together. And if anybody wants to stop and chat, and we have another event coming up in July. Is it July? I think it's in July.
Yeah.
Yeah, our next
Yeah.
Women to Women is in July, so watch for that if you enjoyed this morning. But we appreciate you all coming out. I hope you have a great weekend, a great rest of your Friday.